Sometimes the world misjudges you. They see your uniform, your silence, the role you appear to play, and they decide they already know your worth. What they never see are the battles you've fought, the lives you've carried out of fire, or the scars you've chosen to keep hidden. This is the story of the day they thought I was just the commander's assistant, until the admiral saluted me first, and the entire room went silent. My name is Marcus Kane. Inside the Navy headquarters, most people barely noticed me. To them, I was invisible, a shadow trailing behind Captain Reynolds of SEAL Team 4. I carried his folders, sometimes his gear, and that was enough for the officers to label me. They whispered, "The errand boy, the failed recruit, the coffee carrier." I caught the smirks, the dismissive glances, the subtle ways they brushed past me as if I didn't exist. And every time I said nothing, because silence was part of the assignment. The truth lived in files so heavily classified those same men would never be cleared to even glance at a single page. They didn't know the operations I'd been dropped into, the nights spent running from shadows, or the brothers I'd dragged out of burning wreckage. They only knew the disguise, and some days, even I wondered if I had become the disguise. One morning, the energy in the command building was different, tighter. Whispers flew through the halls. Admiral Harrington was coming. Harrington wasn't just another flag officer. He was the kind of man whose approval or disapproval could shape entire careers. Uniforms were pressed until they shined, shoes polished until they reflected the ceiling. Officers rehearsed their talking points in corners like anxious cadets. When the hour came, I followed Captain Reynolds into the main briefing room as always. My task was simple: carry his documents, stand in the corner, stay quiet. The room filled with brass, men covered in medals, men who carried themselves like their decorations were proof of their worth. They noticed me briefly, only to dismiss me. One captain muttered, "Stay out of the way." So I did. The double doors opened. Admiral Harrington entered, and the entire room snapped to rigid attention. His presence was suffocating, sharp, commanding, like a weight that bent the air. But then his eyes found me. I froze. It had been years since I'd seen those eyes. Years since the night that had changed us both forever. It was deep in the jungles of South America, during a mission no history book will ever record. Harrington hadn't been an admiral then, just a commander leading a desperate rescue. Our team had been dropped behind enemy lines to extract hostages from a collapsing compound. We were outnumbered, outgunned, and the storm that night made the world itself seem hostile. An explosion tore through the building. Debris rained down, and Harrington was pinned beneath burning rubble. His men were scattered, chaos everywhere. I was just 23, a ghost operator embedded into the mission so secretly that even he hadn't known my name. I heard his strained breaths over the roar of gunfire. Without thinking, I ran. Piece by piece, I pulled him free, blood and ash mixing until I couldn't tell whose was whose. Enemy fire cut through the night, but I didn't stop until we reached cover. His grip on my wrist was iron, his voice, even through the pain, steady. "You just saved my life, Kane. One day the world will know who you are. Until then, stay in the shadows." The mission was a success. Hostages saved, files sealed, my name erased. And now here he was, years later, staring at me in a room full of decorated officers. Everyone waited for his salute, but Harrington didn't face the captains. He didn't turn to the commanders. He walked past every single one of them until he stopped in front of me. His gaze softened for a fraction of a second. Then, breaking every expectation, every unspoken rule, Admiral Harrington raised his hand and saluted me. The room gasped. Assistants don't get saluted. Admirals don't break protocol. Yet here it was undeniable, unshakable respect. I returned the salute, my chest tight, memories of that jungle storm flashing back like lightning. Lowering his hand, Harrington turned to the officers. His words were calm but sharp enough to cut the air. "You think rank earns respect. You think ribbons prove sacrifice. You're wrong. True honor is earned in silence when no one is watching. This man, the one you've mocked and dismissed, has given more to this country than most of you will in your entire lives. Silence, no one moved. No one dared breathe. For the first time in years, they saw me. From that day forward, the whispers stopped. The smirks vanished. Heads dipped in quiet acknowledgement. But none of that truly mattered. Recognition has never come from others. It comes from living true to the oath you swore, even if no one ever knows your name. Sometimes it takes a single salute to wake the world up, but it takes a lifetime of sacrifice to earn it. They thought I was just the captain's aide, until the admiral saluted me first and left them speechless. So the next time you're tempted to judge someone by their title, their appearance, or the silence they keep, remember, some of the strongest warriors walk quietly among us.